Hello everyone, welcome to Homeschool Autism Life. My name is Jamie and today's video is our Oceania, our Gather Round Homeschool Australia Oceania unit, and I'm just going to share some of the things that I have planned. We're about 3 lessons in, so we're not that far in, but I want to share because it's a lot of fun. And yeah, so the first thing that I'm just going to chat about is one of the first things I do when I'm doing the units for my brain. What is it called? Social studies and geography. There it is. When I first start doing those, I automatically go and get a map. So I'm going to try and put it in here so you guys can see it. Oof. So this is the map that I build up. I will leave a link down where you can print it any size you want. If you have a whole wall, you could fill it up. It takes a little bit of time to figure out where everything goes, but I usually get a couple of pictures and stuff, you know, silly things to make it more interesting. And then what we do is my girls, every time we do a new country, we actually color it in. So with the Oceania ones, there's going to be a couple of little issues because a lot of them aren't even shown on this map because they're so like tiny little islands. So what I'm going to be doing, I haven't yet, is I found this map just on Google, and it actually kind of breaks up the ocean into little areas to kind of help me. And so I'm going to just with a pencil put in a couple of little island specks and then put the name in for my kiddos just to help kind of bridge the gap, because before we were working with like the continent of Asia and you had these giant land masses that you could color the map on. And so this one is, I've had to be a little bit more creative about how I do it. I got just a few things from Twinkl that I thought was kind of fun. So this is their, I believe, coat of arms for Australia that I thought the girls could color, and that would be a fun activity one day. And then the other thing is that this was a treasure map, and I thought that I would have the girls actually build a treasure map of our house. And then they could, you know, this is just an example, an idea. I thought it kind of looked like Australia and New Zealand, but I thought that it might be a good idea for each of them. Like I'll get some sort of little treasure and each of them can build a map for the other sister. And, you know, if Darian's feeling up to it, we can all go try and sort through their own treasure map. Again, I'm not sure why like the treasure map idea is something that I thought of, but there weren't a lot of activities that I saw that we in the frozen north, it's like lovely snow outside, but there's not a lot of those outdoor activities for Oceania that we could take advantage of in February. So that is just one of those things. I also thought it would be kind of fun for us to do like a picture such as this. It probably won't be with flower petals and, you know, dried leaves, that sort of thing, but I thought it would be fun activity for us to do something like this in their art projects for a Fun Friday activity. With the Gather Round lesson, and please feel free to correct me if I missed it somehow, but in all the other continent units that they did, they always had flags, and I couldn't find in anything that I printed in any of the extras that they have digitally of flags. So I ended up making my own because it's an important part that every single day we go through and I go, what's this flag? And we built it. So this was relatively easy to build. It just took a little bit of time. I don't have it to share with you. I'm just not savvy technically to share it with you, but all I did was I went on Google, looked up the flag for New Zealand and all the other countries, And then I just opened up a Word pad and did those, and then printed them off, and then used my laminator and laminated them. So now I have a full set of the cards. Yeah, so I just wanted to share that if that was something that you do with your family. I also tend to do that with, and let me see, I started this last year when we started the continent unit, and I made them a fake passport. Canadian government, don't come after me. And then I go on Google and I look up the passport stamp for each one. Each country, excuse me. Every once in a while they won't have one, and so then I have to do like a stamp for mail. But yeah, so these were the 3 that we've done so far. So that's something else I do. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about my assigned readers for my girls, and then the resources, or the read alouds. That's the word I'm looking for. The read alouds that I have planned. So for my daughter, who's just an emerging reader, she's not quite fluent yet, she is going to be reading The Magic School Bus Expedition Down Under, and she's pretty happy with these books. She read one for the human body and seemed to like it, so I felt pretty confident about assigning this book to her. And then for my fluent reader who just reads like crazy, I got this Thunderbolt Pony by Stacy Gregg. It is not one that I am familiar with, but I did, when I looked it up, it sounded like it was something that was would be good for her. Yeah, so it's just about a girl and her horse in the midst of an earthquake and other things that are happening in her life. As far as read alouds, I did struggle. I did struggle to find books that I thought would be good, because it's not just about Oceania, or it's not just about Australia, it's also about Oceania, and finding books that are my children's age level has been difficult, finding things that they might be interested in. But I did find this one, which is a very young kid picture book, but my kids seem to enjoy it anyway. There's one picture in here, let's see if I can find it, where you actually hold it sideways, which I thought was kind of funny. I've never really seen that in a story before. See, I didn't even know I was going to show you this, but but he is in the aquarium, but it's just a fun, silly little story about how curious octopuses are, and how this one escaped from an aquarium by going down a drain. So it's kind of fun. Another book that I got was Around the World in 100 Days, Henry the Navigator to Magellan. So that's the chapter that I'm going to read out of this book, because he did visit Magellan. Yeah, he did visit Australia, but he also found a lot of the islands. And so there's only one chapter that I'm going to read out of this book for right now, but I might leave it out for the kids to look at. But this was one of the books that I think Simply Charlotte Mason talked about too, for as far as living books are concerned. Another book that I got was, I went to online, like I had to look really hard, and I haven't finished binding this into a book just yet, but I got this book called Abel, Beljansson Tasman, and he's the fella that is named, Tasmania is named after. His life and voyages, and it's a fairly short book, like it's double-sided, or like 2 pages per page. It's not very big, but I thought it might be an interesting way to introduce him finding some of the islands, some of Australia, that sort of thing. Again, I have not read it all the way through. I will leave a link down. It's public domain, so you can print it off yourself. But it was one of those things where he is a Dutch explorer. My family, half of my family, I'm 50% Dutch. So I thought that that might be a good way to introduce this. And we've talked a lot about, the mad rush for land and flag planting and stuff of colonialism. But, it's one of those things that as far as history is concerned, we might not agree with it today, but we do need to talk about it so that, our kids are just informed about the fact that sin has been in the world for a really long time. So I got that book, and then depending on how that book goes, I will be reading it ahead of time. I am going to be reading something completely different called Me and My Feelings, a kid's guide to understanding and expressing themselves. This is something that I've just been noticing as my kids are entering the adolescence years, that sometimes they have, they can be very emotional, but not have the words to really discuss and explain why they're feeling the way they are. And sometimes I have to give them a day, and then I come back and I talk to them later and go, so can you tell me what that was about? And so I thought that this book might be a way to broach that subject without it being, well, yesterday you were this, that, or the other thing, or you seem to be feeling this, that, or the other thing. It's, a neutral discussion about feelings and how they can feel complicated and not able to discuss. Now, it is a fairly young book. Again, my kids are 10 and 12. My girls, speaking particularly about them. And, but I did, again, I wanted to broach this subject in an easy, light-going, like not heavy-handed sort of way. And so that's why I got this book. Now, as far as other books, I will just go through this real quick, other resources. This is my friend for all, Digging for the Truth Season 1. There's only really one episode of the Easter Islands that we will be watching in this one. I, of course, always, for my cook-loving child, we always get this Australia Oceania recipe book. Get it for all of the continents. I've shared this one before, If the World Were a Village, and so I just talk about, it talks about different people. It's got some great illustrations, but just how we're not all that different and we should respect everybody. Coral Reefs by Seymour Simon. Just lots of beautiful pictures. And I'm getting a glare, sorry. We have this one, Under the Sea, Britannia, Encyclopedia Britannia. So again, lots of beautiful pictures, and I did that for the coral reefs and stuff like that that we will be talking about. This was an awesome find a year and a bit ago from bookoutlet.ca. I really encourage you, if you do gather around units, to check them out, because sometimes you have no idea what you will find. I just love that. But the whole book is kind of like that. Let me get the next one. And my kids love looking at this book. And then the last one is DK's Children Just Like Me, a new celebration of children around the world. And so that's another one that I pull out for every unit that has to do with the continent. So that's it. That's all I have for you today. I hope that it's been helpful for your study of this unit. Thank you so much for taking the time to spend with me today, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.